can't fall asleep when you're counting stars. Get it together. Your mind can't sleep when you let it serve. Now you wanna see me fall. From a quarter mile, I can see you at the goal. Think about it, ring won't tell you what I saw. When you break it up, you'll see who had it all. You had it all. You said you wanted to fall into oblivion. Forget about the world we're living in. Fall into oblivion, oblivion. I'm going in. Fall into oblivion. Fall into oblivion. Forget about the world we're living in. Fall into oblivion, I'm going in.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome back. We're on the wrong slide. No one saw that. Close your eyes. Blink. Okay. Welcome to the Waveline for Week 5 of EGL. This is your host, Xernian. I'm joined today by Clutch and Silent. As usual, Matt Pizza said, I hate EGL. I don't want to come. But no, actually, guy is just busy. So, we're starting off this week, going into week number 5 of a very short season. So we were saying this on EDL, just overall, there's a whole bunch of storylines starting to show, a whole bunch of other kind of stories developing. So with that, we're not going to really say too much. We're just going to jump right into what happened last week. So we had Literal Monkeys versus Clown Gaming Jesters on stream. It was a 2-0 for Literal Monkeys. We had a 2-1 for Hyperion versus Project Iconic, 2-1 for VBU against FTD Darken, and a 2-1 for Aftermath against Collective Experience. So looking at this, we're going to start right at the top. Silent, you were on that match, on that streamed match between Literal Monkeys and Clown Gaming Jesters. So overall, this was this was projected to be a little bit of a closer series. Clown Gaming was coming in kind of with more, I wouldn't say like higher expectations, but at the same time we did. We had a really high bar set for Clown Gaming. I think your team is now 1-3 in the season going into this week. So Silent, what kind of happened this week? We were seeing a lot of we were kind of focused on Jesus Juice actually from Literal Monkeys, but we saw a lot more, especially from Wonderworld in that first game on Twitch. So if you want to give us a breakdown, you played mid lane for that series if I remember correctly.
And I think I'm gonna have to semi disagree. It might be because I'm biased. It might be because I played the game. But both, like at least game one felt super close, back and forth. I think that uh, Little Monkeys Fire, super strong team, has honestly been showing dominance throughout the entire season. And it felt when I played the game at least that they were showing a little bit of like oh, this team actually might be human. They might actually be beatable. Um, they just had some better coordination than we did. Were able to win those team fights. Super strong team fighting team, uh, and I think that any team that wants to get to actually face up against them, to either practice their team fights or just find a different way to beat them because they are super strong in that regard. And yeah, they just kind of overtook us in those fights. Game two, I would definitely say was not nearly as close, but game one, I definitely think honestly was super back and forth and could have gone either way.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to agree with you. Like during that first game, we did see Wonderworld actually kind of pop off on that Twitch early. He was just running up to Egyptian and pressing R, and then Twitch things, right? And um, I think overall, like you said, it was really close actually. This game was really back and forth. You had CH Gaming on that Darius, right? He was really, really strong in that side lane, killing Barry Donut over and over again. He was really, really strong, but I think the problem became, the other sides of the map were losing too hard, and CH couldn't really carry through that side lane. And I think overall, from a draft standpoint as well, Literal Monkeys, I think they definitely had that easier to execute comp. Their win conditions were a lot clearer, especially with that Alawi. With your team, like you had a Rel, Diana, right? You have champions that want to go in, and that was exactly what Alawi wanted, right? So I think that from a draft standpoint, you guys probably had the tougher edge of that sword. But overall, I do think that you guys played really well. So, Clutch, if you're looking at these two games, who would you say was your star player from each side?
So for the side of Clown Gaming Jesters, I mean, it's probably going to be CH Gaming. I think he had a pretty good series, at least in game one, right? He was kind of the shining star. I remember he was solo killing Barry Donut in the top lane. He was looking like, all right, this guy, he's pretty good. Now, obviously, the comps, it's like really hard to play. If you just look at them, like LTMK Fire just kind of draft gapped. And unfortunately for CG Jesters, it's like, it didn't really work out for them because of what they're playing into. Like, it's one of those where, yeah, you could say player gap, but not really. It was more just comp gap. For the side of LTMK, yeah, it was probably Wonderworld. I think Wonderworld had a really, really good series. He's an exceptional player, and for him being added to LTMK Fire, it's like another player like Jesus Juice. It's just another superstar added to the team. But CG Jesters, Clown Gaming, they did show some promise. And moving forward, I think they could contend for a playoff spot, maybe one of the bottom spots. But yeah, LTMK's coach, I believe it's Grant, has some very, very good drafts. So I just want to give a quick shout out to him. Good job today, or not today. Well, I mean, I guess good job today because you'll probably be drafting, but good job last week. And looking forward to the spicy stuff he's going to bring out because you don't see the Alawi every day.
Yeah, Alawi is secret. It's mostly a secret pocket pick we see from lots of top laners. But I think for me, especially in that second game, Egyptian and Grenaives on that Samira Blitzcrank, I think when we were watching the game, you could just tell how nervous they were playing that bot lane against Wonderworld and Pink Penguin because of how how strong Wonderworld was in that game before, how much he snowballed off on that Twitch. And Egyptian was actually doing really, really well on that smear in the early game. Kind of was that shining star in that second game, I think, for CG Jesters. But I think my one question mark was so Barry Donut, they put him on the Alawi again. You guys didn't ban it. You were like, okay, we're gonna let Alawi go through, and you guys banned it instead of banning it. Excuse me. So then, CH Gaming, he locked in that Mordekaiser, which I know is, little top lane birdie told me that CH Gaming playing that Mordekaiser is supposed to be winning that matchup, right? I feel like maybe it was also just a lot of pressure on him as well, knowing that he performed really well in that game previously too. So I think there were a lot of nerves from the side of CG Jesters. I'm not sure if that's correct, or you can correct me, Silent, if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't think it was nerves. I think we just made some mistakes in terms of like the whole macro team play.
Hmm.
That matchup is super Mordekaiser favored, but uh, the Alawi was able to get the help they needed to actually push that lane ahead, and we weren't able to kind of match that pressure as well as they were able to like give the pressure. So it's honestly kind of like an overall like team gap in the game too. I don't think it was nerves. No one in our team like really gets that bad with nerves or anything. It's just they just had a better plan in mind going into the game.
Yeah, I agree. I think what Clutch was just saying overall, Grant really gave Literal Monkeys very clear and easy to execute win conditions. So well played from them overall. So then going into next week, Silent, what were you guys' main takeaway from that series?
Where our main takeaway is that we need to be able to play more together, and I think our team fighting, despite how good Fire's team fighting is, I think we had a lot of good situations in which we can take our team fighting and move it to the next level. In this series, in a different series we've played later that week, we had extremely good team fighting, and I think that if we are able to kind of look to fight in better spots and set ourselves up for better positions to fight, we should far exceed anything that we've shown so far.
Yeah, I think you guys are really close to kind of getting, finding that sweet spot for your team, finding that place where everything kind of works. So I think going into this week, that's going to be what I'm looking forward to, especially for your series this week. But we're going to look at that next one, which is Hyperion Sword versus Project Iconic. So I think this was actually pretty Project Iconic favorite, if I'm remembering correctly. And Hyperion taking this 2-1 is kind of the one of those saving graces they needed, especially for saving their season record, because going into the series they were 0-3. They were winless and they were having a really tough time finding that footing. And this series win actually ties them up with Project Iconic, so they're now both 1-3 in series. So Clutch, if I remember correctly, you said you voted for Hyperion last week.
Yep, I was the only one to vote for Hyperion, and I got the series score correct. So I'm just saying, I was the prophet. But so, honestly, like to me, Hyperion and Project Iconic are kind of like around the same skill level. And if I thought like Hyperion, if they're gonna win any game this season, it's gonna be this one because it a lot of the time they've been going up against teams that have just been better than them and not around their skill level, so they're just going to lose. And for Project Iconic, it's not saying that they're bad. They're just around the same skill level as Hyperion Gaming. And I thought that, okay, if there's any series Hyperion's going to upset, it's going to be against Project Iconic. Because, yes, this is an upset, right? Like, Project Iconic coming in was favored, right? A lot of people had them favored, and Hyperion did upset them. So they found their first win. And it'll be interesting to see how they move forward because, I mean, now that they have that win, gain themselves a little bit of confidence, do they go on a run now? Do they go on a run, make the playoffs, and they be that upset team? Who knows? We'll have to see. And it all starts this week.
Yeah, that first game they won in a really convincing fashion, right? In the second game, it was actually Project Iconic who kind of flipped that script and really took it to Hyperion. And then that third game, I really kind of wish we watched this series, but that third game, you can tell it was really, really close. Shy Winter, big on that Caitlyn pick in the second two games of that series. And I mean, like, you're playing Caitlyn Karma, Caitlyn Lux, right? And you're playing these really strong bot lanes, so I think really challenging Attila and Mystic Azzy, they were a duo that I also pointed out before. And I think, I'm not sure if this is the first week with their new jungler, Clutch. I remember you mentioning that they got a new jungler for Hyperion.
Hyperion? Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
have a new jungler this week.
Were they in last week or this just starting this week?
Oh, they're starting this week.
Oh, okay. So I guess the biggest thing is that Hyperion with the new jungler this week, I think that just makes their potential so much higher than even what happened last week. I think this is a great spark of life coming from Hyperion, and I'd really like to see a lot more, moving into, the future weeks. I think one pick I really like is Vex Alistair on that Zac. I think Zac is one of those champions that's really great at playmaking. Um, but unfortunately, I think he's a new jungler, so I guess they're not coming back. Unlucky. So, Silent, if you're looking at these two teams, Hyperion and Project Iconic, Project Iconic, their next few weeks, they're going against FTD Darken this week, then they're going against Collective Experience, and then they're going against Literal Monkeys. So, if you're looking at these next 3 weeks, where do you think they'll end up in the standings? Because right now they're 1-3.
I think they'll. Let me just count these wins and losses real quick. I think they're gonna go 1-2 the next 2 weeks. I think the only game they're gonna probably pick out is against possibly Collective Experience week 6. I think they have a pretty hard back half of the schedule, and if they have a hard back half of the schedule, it usually means they have an easier front half, and they were only able to pick up the 1 win, and it was against yours truly. So I think it's gonna be a rough back half of the schedule for them. But if there's any game I think they're going to pick up, it's going to be that week 6 matchup against Collective.
Yeah, so then my final question for you is if they have that projected season like you're guessing here, then do they make the playoffs? Yes or no? Because, well, obviously we don't know about all the other players and all the other teams and where they're gonna end up, but I guess it's just yes or no. Just take a guess.
It's gonna be hard to. I think it's hard to say where they're gonna end up, just based on the rest of the teams. I am gonna have to probably say no, because if they're gonna end the season 1-6, that's kind of a hard record to get, or 2-5, 1-6, one of those two, and that's gonna be hard playoff hard record to get into playoffs with. So probably not, but hey, honestly, anything could happen. They could sweep 3 out of the next 3 weeks. You never really know.
True. So then, Clutch, my question for you is Hyperion Sword. Do you think they make playoffs?
Right. There's one team that's going to make it out of Iconic, Hyperion, and Clown Gaming, because obviously one team has to be the 6th seed. Hyperion, will they make it? Let me see their schedule. Well, I mean, it just comes down to week 7, because week 7's Clown Gaming versus Hyperion, and to be honest, whoever wins that is going to make it. No, I think they're going to be the 7th seed. I think they'll be 7th, and I think they're going to miss it out. I think Clown Gaming will be 6th. I think Clown will just barely make it in this one, because Hyperion, they have VBU, FTD Darken, and Clown Gaming, which, like, to be honest, they're all I think FTD Darken might not be winnable. I think FTD Darken's actually decent. VBU's like decent too. But yeah, it's just week 7. It's just gonna come down to that. And I think Clown Gaming Jesters are slightly better than Hyperion Sword, even though they're currently in last. So yeah, we'll have to see. Week 7's the big week. Every season somehow I always rig the schedule, I guess.
True, and then there's like a 10-way tie, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's like a 10-way tie, and it comes down to like 18 tiebreakers, and I'm sitting there for like hours crunching numbers, and everyone's like, "Are we in or not?" I'm like, "Let me finish the tiebreaker."
Yeah. So then with that next, look at the next series here. We have VBU Plutonium that went against FTD Darken. So if I remember correctly, it was very, very FTD favored for that series. VBU, I think, has been, I don't know, I would say they're going up and down within their season. They were projected to like have some like really, oh yeah, VBU should win this one, but then they lost, right? One that comes into my mind is something like the collective series. We thought it was really going to be VBU favorite, and Collective really showed us, and Collective is actually one of those teams that we haven't really given a lot of credit to, but going into looking at that week 4 series where they went against FTD Darken, FTD had a really strong showing in their first week, kind of struggled a bit in that second one against LTMK, right? And then ever since then, they have been just, still having a really strong showing. But I think against VBU, I don't know where to put them anymore in that standings and that standpoint, because FTD was a team that we were like, oh, we don't really know what's going on, and then, oh, no, this team is actually doing really well, and then, oh, no, I don't know anymore, right? And that's where this series kind of puts me. So, Clutch, my question for you, VBU versus FTD, what do you think was the biggest, I think, turning point for these two teams?
Are you saying like in the match they played against
Yeah,
each other or the season?
In the match.
Well, Genetics ended up playing game 2 and game 3. All I'm going to say is Genetics is a pretty good AD carry. And he ended up playing the second and the third game, and kind of, I mean, at least game 2 ended up popping off, and then game 3 he didn't really pop off, but the team still won. Also, Squig pulled out Alawi, so I guess Alawi just has like 100% win rate, never loses or something, because this champ just gets picked and every team loses. So like, I don't know if this is like the EGL EDL meta, where like we're the only league that just locks in Alawi every game. Maybe that's our little meta. But I swear, every time I see this champ, it's winning. And VBU pulled it out and they won. So I guess game 3, that was their like little secret pocket pick in the top lane. But yeah, Genetics coming in definitely helped them out a lot. I don't know. It's really hard because FTD and VBU are those type of teams that like 1 week they look really good, and then the next week it's like, what happened, right? They're just like inconsistent in my eyes. That doesn't mean they're still good. They're still decent teams. I think FTD and VBU are going to be a playoff team. Like, they're both playoff teams in my opinion. But if they really want to contest with the top 2 teams in the league, LTMK and Aftermath, you have to be consistent. If you're just going to like 50-50 every game, I mean, you're just not going to win. Like, you have to find some consistency. And that's my only like concern with these two teams and for the rest of the season and in the series, because it kind of just looked like it went back and forth, to be honest.
Yeah, even just looking at, these drafts and match histories, we were talking about like IQ of a coconut in that first game, playing that Zaya against Hello 301. If anyone doesn't know the matchup, it's very Caitlyn favored. Zaya just doesn't get to play the game against Caitlyn most of the time. But Zaya playing that Aerie, then opting to go for the crit build, ends up actually doing relatively well in that game. So ends up with more gold than Caitlyn and all that kind of stuff. So this is kind of one of the games I wish I could have watched. Because, what was that deciding factor, right? Like, just in a 2v2 where they just the better players, how did that go? Did someone mess up? Like, there's a lot, I think, riding on something like that. So looking just even at that first game, I think there's big props to IQ of a Coconut before they swapped out for in Genetics. But like you were saying, Clutch, it's really hard to see a lot of consistent factors between even both these teams, right? I think this series was definitely up in the air up until the second and that third game where, well, the third game was a lot closer than the second game, but I think the second game, it was really just Uncool Squash really likes his Victor pick, and I think Victor is one of those champions that, in the right hands can 1v9, right? But I think Uncool Squash and the rest of their team, just looking at VBU's drafts and their comps, again, definitely like that easier to execute comp. We have like Hecarim, Orianna. We just gotta go in and we press R, right? And I think that's something I like to see from not just FTD, but I think every other EGL team. If you're able to draft and execute like just easier comps, then I think you're just gonna win a bit more. Because at the end of the day, we're gold players. We're not gonna be perfect, right? So having that easier to execute comp will, I think, do better. Looking at that third game, FTD Darken starts with a Caitlyn, and then VBU responds with Ezreal Lux. I really like this from them. Lux, technically a flex, right? Everyone says that, technically, even though you probably know where it's going. What I didn't like was FTD picking that Rakan, like Ezreal Lux. I don't know, it just doesn't work. Clutch, I don't know, man. Is this like my Rakan bias talking? But
what? Ezreal Lux
versus
Rakan?
Caitlyn Rakan.
Oh, Caitlyn Rakan's really weird. Because, like, knockups are kind of weird to trap. Because it kind of is misleading. Like, usually you want, like, just point and click CC. That's, like, really easy to, put the traps down. But, like, Caitlyn Rakan's a little bit weird, I guess. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like something you would play.
Yeah, as, like, okay, Rakan player, Caitlyn has a way, way bigger range than Rakan, right? And you can't really, even if you eat W, then you're not going to be in range. and then Ezreal Lux. Lux is obviously going to outrange you and outpoke you. So maybe that's a comfort pick. Maybe that's like I know how to win this, right? Maybe they just really wanted to pull out Rickon. But I would really like to see something else from FTD Darken. Something like Morgana was up. Morgana wasn't banned. I think that would have really turned the tides, especially for this match and seeing how close it was. So yeah, I mean, even from a draft standpoint, I think that's what I'd like to see change from FTD. But Silent, looking at these two teams, VBU Plutonia versus FTD Darken. Both of them are actually like neck and neck in the standings at the moment. So going into the next week, this week, VBU is going against Hyperion Sword. And the rest of their season, they have, let's see, so it's Hyperion Sword for today. And then next week, they're going against you guys. And then after that, they go against Aftermath Esports. So looking at these three matches, do you think they end up above the standings in against FTD or below them?
Looking at FTD's schedule too. I think I've got more faith in FTD. I think that VBU is probably going to end up right below them. But I think I have more FTD in being able to pull out those harder to win games than I do VBU actually being able to win the harder matches.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then my question for you, between these two teams, who do you think was the carry player for each one?
I mean, genetics. I know he doesn't really play for them, usually, but probably genetics. I think he popped off enough game 2 and game 3, and it was probably the right choice to put him in compared to IQ of Coconut. I think IQ played well overall, but I mean, going crit with Aerie is just kind of trolling. I don't know if there's a choice there or it was an accidental ruin.
I don't know, man. I know a D1 Zaya player that's very into doing that, but I don't know. He's the Zaya main, not me.
It just feels troll, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it's something you have to think about going into the game, like what you want to do. And a choice was obviously made, and it's fine. It worked out. He went 10-5. It's not like he did bad, but I think genetics was super strong for them. Honestly, though, Merciful Crow is super strong for them too. She is able to like hold lane for the most part, never really ints. Usually goes around even. Most matchups went deathless their last 2 games, it looks like. 4-0 both times, so honestly super strong there. But on the side of FTD, Uncool Squash is still the person I'm looking at every single game. I guess I'm a mid lane bias here. Uncool Squash is able to just kind of carry them over the finish line most of the games, and if he's doing well, then the game's usually a pretty easy one for them. And it's those games that he isn't doing well, usually the ones they're falling behind on.
Yeah, that's fair. So then, looking at that last series of the previous week, we have Collective versus Aftermath. So I think this week, this series, it was definitely Aftermath favored, but I feel like this was a series that they could have pulled out a lot cleaner. So Clutch, looking at this series, if I do remember correctly, I think you voted for Aftermath. I think we all did.
Yeah, you go look. I'll talk so that you'll be able to find it. So both these, I think Aftermath to me is now the solid second place team.
You voted Collective 2-1. So did I.
Okay. Well, you know. But I think Aftermath to me now is the solid like second place team. So to me, there's like you got Literal Monkeys, who are obviously the best team in the league. I think they're just number one. I think everyone can agree they're the number one team in the league. Number 2, you go down a little bit. You got the imaginary little tier list, the little line. All right. Number 2, I think you got Aftermath. I think they're a solid team. They have showed that sometimes they'll drop a couple of games, but overall, they're a pretty good team. Their ADC, Pupper Please, you saw the Samira come out. Looked pretty good on the Samira in both those games. 6-3-8 and 7-4-7 on the Samira. Buckby ended up playing, I think, I don't know if this is Malphite top or Malphite mid, but he ended up playing that. So I think these players on paper are pretty solid. You can kind of count on them to be that solid second place team. And then coming in third, I think is Collective. I think Collective's the third place team. I think where this team, like, it's really hard to say like how this team plays, because I feel like each week they're trying something new, or they're trying a different style, and they're just trying to pick things that work for them. Their bot lane ended up doing fairly well in game 2. They played Twitch Lulu in the Mr. and Mrs. Marty matchup in the bot lane. It looks like the Twitch ended up dropping 13 kills. So that Twitch was a little fed with the Lulu. So I would like to see this team play through bot lane. Put Brown Ale on that split pushing top we saw against VBU, where he just kind of just runs it down in the top lane, getting turrets. But I think the series was like back and forth in the fact that, we see AFE won one game, it was pretty one-sided. We then saw Collective win another game, it was pretty one-sided. So like, I feel like both these teams are a little bit close, but I think overall Aftermath is the better team, and I think moving forward, they should be able to keep the number 2 spot in the league.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Even just looking at that second game, which Aftermath lost, so Collective started with Twitch, and then Aftermath they responded with Samira and Nautilus. So, any sane person thinks it's gonna be Samira and Nautilus bot lane. But it was actually Ikazuchi who took that Samira top lane and had Eclipse and LDR. So I think that's something that was interesting. I don't know what else to say before someone like flames me that I'm like, no, like that's secretly like really cracked. Maybe I just don't know about it yet. I think that's something that well, I don't know what I should even say, Clutch, without like I'm trying to keep things within TOS, man.
I'll say it. That's troll. That's troll. There's no shot you take Samira top lane like that, especially with that build. I don't think that's actually a good pick, in my opinion. I don't see what they were thinking of doing.
It's spicy, maybe a little too spicy. Maybe next time try it in a scrim. Or maybe they did try it in a scrim and it popped off and they're like, yeah, guys, we can do it again. But, I like the attempts. It's always fun to see people try new things. So I'm not going to discourage people from doing that. But, I mean, just overall, like, they still won the series, so I guess, oh well. So, Clutch, my second question for you is, between these two teams, we saw a lot of, I think, highlight on Brown Ale, especially on that stream match where they just kind of took over the map. They were 0-4 and 0 on Mundo one game, but yet when you're watching the series, nobody could touch him, right? He didn't even need to kill anybody, didn't get any assists, didn't have to go anywhere else on the map except top lane. So, what do you think changed this series? Do you think it was just Ikazuchi was able to manage him better, or the team as a whole was able to manage that kind of strategy that Collective was showing?
I feel like after like a lot of these upper echelon teams are just too good where you can't just like perma split against. Like they actually know what to do against a split pusher, but against like some of the like middle of the pack to bottom teams, like you can kind of just get away with split pushing because they don't have the communication, they don't know the macro, that they'll just fall apart and you'll get free wins. Now against like Aftermath, LTMK, you try to do that, yeah, it's just not going to work. And they have to think of something else, a different strategy. It looks like in game 2 they were able to figure that out with the the Diana Malphite Twitch Lulu, just get Twitch ahead and he'll help carry. So looks like they figured it out in game 2 for Collective, but yeah, you can't just keep banking on the fact that Brown Ale will just kind of perma split. And against better players, especially like in lane, if he's not able to find those leads, then like yeah, it's just not going to work out for them.
Yeah. So then, my question for you then, Silent, was when you guys went against Collective, right? You guys actually did win against Collective, so seeing them also be a strong contender against Aftermath, how does that make you feel going into this week when you're going against Aftermath?
Yeah, I think it gives us some confidence in going into the game and kind of being able to like look at what Collective did and how they did it against Aftermath, and being able to actually implement that, knowing what we know about Aftermath. We can now figure out about, or know what we know about Collective. We can actually translate that to what we know about Aftermath then. they actually look to play to our certain strengths and kind of try and take advantage of their weaknesses that we were able to see in the match before.
Yeah, I mean, based on everything you said, I think it's gonna be an exciting match. Unfortunately, not the stream match. But with that, we're gonna move into our predictions. We for our first series, we have Literal Monkeys versus Collective. I don't even know what to say about this one. This one seems kind of like a no-brainer. I wouldn't say that Collective is very far in skill compared to Literal Monkeys, but I think that with the way that Literal Monkeys has been playing and has just and how much they've shown us in terms of like just individual player skill, overall team play, I think this is really one of those, you're really like gonna have to pull something out. So Clutch at that top there, you said 2-0 Literal Monkeys, just like Silent and I. Um, we all kind of see this being that Literal Monkeys' favorite series. Is there anything you would think that would lose them the series?
Coming in thinking Collective's a bad team and
True.
thinking they're just gonna easily beat them, because usually that's when the best teams in the league lose. It's when they heavily underestimate a lot of these lower ranked teams, and they go in thinking, oh, it's a free win, and they're like laughing and having fun and not really trying, while Collective is like super try hard. They've prepped the entire time, and then they come in and they end up just slapping them. So if I'm Literal Monkeys, I'm coming in each week and I'm like, hey, we need to take care of business. We need to show up and win. We can't just like have fun and, just haha, this team sucks. We're just going to beat them. We're better players. You can't do that against some of these teams, and especially Collective. You just can't do that against, because Collective is a good team. This is not one of those bottom teams that maybe you could get away with potentially doing that. If you do it against Collective, you're going to get slapped. So only real way I see Literal Monkeys losing is they end up just taking the series too lightly, and they just end up overestimating or underestimating Collective experience.
Yeah, so then my question for you, Silent, is when we're looking at that, I think Literal Monkeys, they have a lot of pressure, like, especially just coming from that bot lane. But from Collective experience, we saw a lot of potential just from the top lane. Even, like, we've seen a lot of, like we were saying, split pushing from Brown Ale, playing, like, Nasus, Mundo, just sitting in that top lane chilling. From the Marty squared bot lane, do you think they can stand up to Pink Penguin? And I'm not sure who they're playing this week, whoever their ADC is.
Pretty sure they're playing Wonderworld this week. They should be. If I think it's gonna be hard. Marty squared I think is really good, but I think Wonderworld's cracked, and I think people are gonna actually have to learn how to face him and the rest of the team, like be able to manage both like the bot lane and the rest of the map at the same time while Jesus Juice is just running around like killing everyone. I think people are gonna actually have to be able to manage that and take advantage of certain aspects of their game that they do incorrectly before they're going to be able to beat them. So if Collective worked on that and actually like knows where to focus on that, Fire does incorrectly, like being turbo aggressive, actually being able to get vision down and adjust their play to the aggression that Fire is going to give off. If they actually know how to play against that, I think they're going to have a good shot. But at this moment in time, I think they're just too cracked right now. I don't think, honestly, Fire is going to lose until finals.
Until finals. Okay, so you're saying they lose in finals.
Absolutely, to me. Just saying.
Oh, and they lose to you in finals.
Hey, you got to give something spicy for
True.
the fans.
Okay, I like that take. Yeah, I think one matchup like you just mentioned was Jesus Juice and especially for like going against Lacuna. I think that's what I'm looking for between these two junglers. Jesus Juice was really 1v9ing, I think, in the early stages of the season, but there's a lot more going on, I think, for Literal Monkeys, especially on the other places of the map. Then for Collective experience, I think it really depends on how Lacuna plays. If they're able to can they enable their top lane, their bot lane, can they neutralize Wonderworld, right? It really becomes how do these two junglers play and interact. I think that's that matchup I'm looking for this series especially. I don't think there's too much left to say, so I think we're going to move on. We're going to look at Clown Gaming versus Aftermath. Silent, unfortunately, you're the only one rooting for your team this week.
Absolutely. Do you expect me to? I'm not Clutch. I'm gonna root for my team. I will always. We could be 0-8. I mean, we're 1-3 right now, not much better, but I will always say that we're gonna win. And I do think we have a good shot of winning today. Honestly, most of my predictions, I think we have a good chance, and today is definitely one of those.
What's your biggest reason versus Aftermath? Do you think like it's gonna be like solo lane diff? Gonna be like we're just better, or is it like we're really fighting tooth and nail for every fight, like every win and every fight?
I think we've worked on a lot of stuff. I think we have like practiced the things that we're good at, gotten better at the things we're bad at. I think we've gotten better as a team. We actually had time to play more together as we've had a lot of roster switch ups. We've actually had this is the roster we've actually gotten most playing time in. So I think no matter what, over time we're just gonna become a better team. And I think this is gonna be the week we finally get to show that.
I like that take. I like that you're supporting your team. One time, I was on a pregame show like this and I just voted against my team every step of the way. Apparently people don't do that.
You can never lose then. Either you're right or you're just better.
Exactly. So now we're looking at Aftermath, right? So Clutch. All right, try not to hurt Silent's feelings too much, man. 2-0 Aftermath.
I'm a sensitive guy.
Yeah, so just gonna pull up the standings here really quick. Okay, so Aftermath, 3-1. Okay, 10 points. Game differential +3. Okay, here we go. Clown Gaming Jesters, 1-3, 6 points. Game differential -5. That's the nicest way I could put it. I don't need to go into depth about the players or anything. I'm just gonna say, second versus eighth. Now we did see 8 beat 1 in week 1 of the rankings, so maybe this is it, and I'm wrong, but just gonna point out that we're 4 weeks in, and this is a 5th week, so this is a little bit more accurate than week 1 when there's no games played. So we'll have to see. I just think Aftermath is a pretty solid team. Clown Gaming has shown that they have flashes of brilliance where they can contend with some of the top teams in the league, but they would have to put that all together for a full 3-game series or a best of 3. And as of right now, I personally don't really see that happening. I'm not gonna lie. Now, could they take a game? Oh yeah, they could take a game. But yeah, I think Aftermath is just too damn good right now, and they're kind of looking like one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, I think for me, especially Aftermath has just been playing really, really consistently. It's hard to really say. Honestly, Silent, I want to believe in you, bro. But at the same time, man, I'm trying not to look like the worst analyst out there. Sometimes you gotta go for the safer predictions.
Wait, but this makes people look like the worst analysts because they're gonna be wrong.
Okay, I would love for you to prove me wrong then, Matt.
That's what I'm telling myself.
That's not copium, bro. I have to agree with just everything Clutch said. Like, they're just, I don't know, man. First seed, second, like 8th seed or whatever the numbers were. It's hard for us to say. We don't even have to say like player names or anything. I would just say that Aftermath time and time again has shown us they're very consistent. They know how to play around their win conditions and they know how to execute on it, right? But I think I really like believing in your underdog story, Silent, that you guys have been practicing, have been improving, did the things that you guys got to do. And I think this week would be really exciting if you guys were able to take that upset over Aftermath. But with that, I don't think there's much left to say on this series. We're going to move on and look at Project Iconic versus FTD Darken. Unfortunately, we're all on the same side again. So Clutch at the top, 2-0 FTD.
Yeah. So if we look at the stat, no, I'm kidding. FTD, honestly, FTD, they're a solid 5th place team. They're a solid 5th. Oh wait, no, they're 4th. They're a solid 4th place team. I lied, actually. They're going up. I think this team's pretty solid. They've got a lot of good players that, as the split progresses, they're getting better and better. And Project Iconic, after losing to Hyperion last week, and Hyperion was last at the time, losing to Hyperion is kind of like, okay, well, Project Iconic has weaknesses, right? And if Hyperion can expose them, then I think Feed the Dream Darken should be able to. Now, FTD Darken, they might be having a sub play, but I don't know. I just know they added someone to the roster who is on a EDL team. And I'm just saying, we've seen EDL players or EDL players from last split play, and they've been popping off. Like they've been kind of smurfing in EGL. So we'll see if he plays. I don't know if he will. Probably not. But I just think FTD, they're a solid team, solid 4th place team. They have a lot of good players that, again, as the split progresses, they're going to really start to come online. Uncool Squash, their mid laner, very, very good mid in this league. Extremely underrated, in my opinion. This guy's been popping off. Also, their AD, Hello 301. This guy's come in and really has helped the team out a lot in solidifying that AD carry role and solidifying that bot lane. And I just think Feed the Dream, they're just a better team, in my opinion. They've just shown that they can take games and that they're one of those top 4 teams. And for Project Iconic, I mean, we've seen 1 week where they look pretty solid and then otherwise it's all over the place. So for Iconic, I just kind of want them to solidify a play style, pick one thing and just stick with it. But yeah, I just think Feed the Dream, they've got their play style down right now and they should be able to take down Iconic.
Yeah, I think especially like you were saying, Uncool Squash, really just a powerhouse in that mid lane. So I think it's really up to whoever is playing for Iconic this week in the mid lane to see how they stand up against Uncool Squash. And I like that you pointed out their bot lane as well. I think Project Iconic's bot lane, Shy Winter and Tolup are really like one of their best lanes to win through if that's what they want to play around and how they want to play around it. I think keep picking Shy Winter, stuff like that, Caitlyn, and all that other good stuff. And I think Project Iconic does have a chance to win, so that's why I said 2-1. But overall, I do have to agree with you, Clutch, that FTD has just been... They're scaling, man. They're just getting better as each week goes by. So, Silent, you also said 2-1 for FTD.
Yeah, I think honestly Clutch stole a lot of my points. I'm a little upset about that one, but I'll forgive him. I
True,
think
after
FTD
he flamed you too, man. Wow.
True. I think overall, honestly, FTD is just the better team. They've shown a lot of higher highs, and their lows aren't that bad. Like they've lost games to like limited or Little Monkey's Fire. I mean, that's not bad. And they lost their series to VBU, which that's rough, but VBU is still like one of those top, like those higher up teams, not top teams, but they're in the middle of the pack. So like losing those matches are fine. They FTD did take down Aftermath Esports, who is 2nd place in the league, handedly 2-0. And I mean, they beat the greatest team of all time, Clown Gaming Jesters. So understandable that these I think FTD has these better matches that they've played. I think they're gonna probably easily take this game. If Project Iconic does take it, I'd be a little shocked because their lows are rough. They've lost some games that they should have definitely won. And the one win is against Clown Gaming, who was having a rough week that week. So I'm kind of on the boat that it's going to be a pretty easy FTD win.
Yeah, I mean 2-1 for FTD. Just just going off what everyone else said. That yeah, I mean this series FTD has just been showing us as each week goes by that they're just getting better and better. And I think Project Iconic started off probably maybe a bit stronger than FTD, but I feel like Project Iconic is kind of going through those growing pains, or maybe there's like obviously I can't know what goes on beneath the surface, but Project Iconic, I think if they are able to win this series, then that means a lot for their season, right? They're currently 1-3. FTD is currently 2-2, right? If they lose this series, they're 1-4. Playoffs is looking very, very, kind of bad, right? And they could possibly miss playoffs, I think, if they lose this series, just because, like crazy tiebreakers or whatever have you. So I think this is really important for them to win, which I think, I don't know. I'd like to see them pull out all the stops and see what they can do going into the series. But we have 5 minutes left. We're going to talk about our last and streamed match of the week. It is Hyperion Sword versus VBU Plutonium. So we got red and green. We got the Christmas colors. Merry Christmas, Silent. You got to go first.
Oh, Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. Thank you very much. And I will gift... This year, my gift is going to go to VBU, who I think is probably going to take this... I said 2-1. That's a mistype by me. I think they're probably gonna take it 2-0, honestly. Hyperion's got some stuff to work on still. They picked up a new jungler, who I think may or may not improve the team. It really could go either way. If they've got enough practice in with them, then maybe they are able to actually utilize the synergy between them. But I think honestly, I don't think they're going to get that practice in, especially with the limited time they've had with him. I think VBU has had just more synergy, more cohesiveness, time together overall. I think they should probably just take this game, either 2-0 or 2-1, which I went with.
Yeah, I think for me, I said 2 in Hyperion because last week, Clutch got to believe in Hyperion. I think it's my turn this week to believe in Hyperion.
No.
I think what this guy no.
Oh no!
Oh,
my!
no.
It cut off. It cut off when I said. I said, "Oh no, not no."
Just no. That's kind of toxic, bro.
No, it cut off. No.
It was way funnier when it was just no. To be
No,
honest.
honestly, yeah,
Okay.
this guy's a little toxic. I don't know, but I feel like Hyperion. We've been really underestimating them. I think Hyperion does still have a lot of potential. I think over and over again, Hyperion is one of those orgs that just like randomly, okay. So why I say this is because last season when we had Hyperion, top seed like consistently throughout the season, right, and then it kind of struggled in playoffs, and then as an org, this season, they're scaling. Okay, they went through the training arc. Okay, they went through all the struggles. Now they're gonna come back and they're just gonna pop off. Okay, I think that is going to be what happens. This is not a hot take. I swear, it is not a hot take. Hyperion scales, and then this is that series that turns it around. I think Hyperion has a lot of potential, like we were saying. I'm trying to think of names. So we were talking about, especially like Attila, we keep going to Attila. I think this new jungler Roulette is going to be that game-changing piece in their puzzle. I think there's a lot of like extra talent we were talking about, like Inferno SK. I think we mentioned Bees a few times. Even that bot lane duo Attila, and I think Vex might be playing this week. I'm not sure. But I think there's a lot going into this series. I think Hyperion is just desperate enough for a win that they pull it out this week. But Clutch, you said it 2-1 for VBU. I don't know, man. You kind of like, you're like, no, I say my org is going to win, and then they lose, and I say they're going to lose, and then they win. So is this secretly like a Hyperion vote?
No, this is putting my trust into VBU, which this could backfire. But I think VBU is gonna take the 2-1. One matchup I'm looking forward to, as this person is going to mauled in chat. We have Inferno SK for Hyperion taking on Anio, aka Merciful Crow, in the mid lane. Absolute banger matchup. I think both these mids are really, really good, and they don't get a lot of attention for their teams. For VBU, I mean, a lot of people talk about Glada, or Glada's like star player. He's been playing extremely well. Genetics, if Genetics, I mean, was playing, this guy's a great ADC. For Hyperion, it's like, Attila, he's been around for a really long time. But Inferno SK, again, super, super solid player. I think this guy is the light of Hyperion. When they do win, it's through him. And I think the opposite for VB Plutonium. Now, Merciful Crow is not this carry mid laner. Merciful Crow is this supportive mid that's going to help their team get online to the point where they will end up popping off. And it's actually going to be a clash of play styles in the mid lane. It's going to be two different styles, and this is the stream match. Two different styles in the mid lane. And it's not to say that Inferno SK can't play supportive or Crow can't carry, but that's just like what they do more. That they play that type of play style more. And VBU's got some spicy picks, by the way. So we'll see if they actually come out. But yeah, they have spicy picks, leaks.
Every week, dude's got leaks, man.
Yeah, I'm not telling you what they're playing. But
Withholding
VBU's got some spicy picks. We'll see if they pull it out on stream. I hope they do. I think it'd be really funny. But yeah, I think VBU right now, they just look like a more solid team. Again, they're like that middle of the pack team. They are a bit inconsistent, is my only worry. VBU one week will look like one of the best teams in the league, and the next week they'll look like they're last. So like they have very high highs, but also low lows. But I think up against Hyperion, I think VBU should do just fine against them, and take the 2-1. I do think Hyperion will take a game though, because again, VBU is kind of this inconsistent team that they can drop games, and I think they're going to end up dropping one to Hyperion.
Yeah. Okay. And with that, Silent, do you have any closing remarks before we gotta go?
No, I just hope that all the teams I picked make me proud today, and if you don't, I will never pick you again.
Oh my, okay. Well, you guys heard it here. Silent's never gonna, vote for you guys if you let him down. So you better win. With that, we hopefully will see you guys 8 p.m. Eastern for Hyperion Sword versus VBU Plutonium.